Hello and welcome to another episode of the Flying G Huddle, your inside look at Gladwin football. I'm Casey Campbell. I'm your host, and above me or beside me is the head football coach at Gladwin. That, of course, is Marc Jartsfer, and he's coming off a win over Ogemaw Heights, starting off the season 1-0. Welcome back on here. So, fun game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of everything that we build it up to be, with the level of physicality and kind of the back and forth nature and it really coming down to the fourth quarter and just a few plays, being the deciding factor in that. And so it was great for us to pull out the win and see some of our young kids get an opportunity to grow up, right in the game and in front of us. And it was definitely a good win to get to start the season.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go through the game. First quarter, after a scoreless first quarter, Ogemaw started off the scoring, got up 7-0 to start off the second quarter. And then you guys really took control with kind of talk about how you kind of scored that first touchdown there after they went up 7-0.
Yeah, and so I mean, anytime that you get in those big games, it does seem like there's a feeling out process that happens early on, and so that's kind of what I would describe the first quarter as, like no one wanting to make that big mistake or whatever, and kind of seeing how their game plan was going to work out and that sort of thing. And so when we got into the second quarter, they had kind of methodically drove it down the field and it eventually ended up putting in one on us. And so, we needed an answer right away. We had kind of set up this double pass by running a bunch of swing passes out into the flats in that first quarter, and we had some success doing those. So we figured, if we threw another swing pass out there, that their corner would come up and bite on that, and that's kind of what happened. And so, we threw the swing out there to Trace Corlew, and then he kind of pulled up and threw it downfield to Jaden Miskey for a wide open touchdown. And so it was a great way just to answer back and kind of even out the momentum, because as if you go down 7 and then your drive stalls and they go down and score again, that can be a problem. And so it was nice to get an answer there right away, and get our feet back underneath us.
Okay, so after those two touchdowns, you went up 14-7. They came back and they scored on a 10-yard run, to tie the game up, and then Trace, you kind of went a little bit back there, and then
Yeah, so I mean, we've traditionally just been a ground and pound team that throws very little, but with a quarterback like Colton Finninger and his ability to kind of step up in the pocket and keep his eyes downfield and find open receivers, which we didn't even really know what we had until game time, right? Like you can only see so much in practice and against the scout team and stuff like that. And so, once we kind of saw what he was capable of with some of those early touchdowns and big throws, it was apparent that that's kind of what we should stick with, just because Ogemaw was so physical and so tough up front, that they really did a good job of holding our ground game in check. And so we felt like, to try to soften that up, we needed to take advantage of a few plays through the air. And luckily Trace Corlew is a special athlete, and Colton did a good job navigating the pocket and keeping his eyes downfield to find him for a few scores.
Yeah, in the second quarter, the first touchdown from Colton to Trace was 25 yards. The second one was 67 yards. And then the third one to make it 28-14 was 45 yards. So a 28-14 lead going into halftime. In the third quarter, they got one back. They got one back on a 55-yard pass to make it 28-21 in the third quarter. Then in the fourth quarter, they were able to tie it up 28-28. And then you kind of got a big defensive touchdown, first one of the season, when Jace picked up and went down and took it to the house.
Yeah, and so I mean, at halftime, obviously we had the 14-point lead. It was 28-14, and we talked a lot to our guys about the fact that Ogemaw was not going to give up. I mean, that's a team with a lot of experience, a very good team, and we knew that we had to work hard and stay focused to keep them in check. And we made a few mistakes defensively and allowed them to get right back into it and tie it up. And you mentioned that defensive play out of Jace Massey. For me, I think that was the turning point in the game and the biggest play of the game. We had drove the ball down. It was 28-28. They had just scored on their last two drives to tie that thing up. And so we drove down to inside their 10. I believe we were at the 6. It was 4th and 1. We elected to go for it and didn't get it. And so, all the momentum had swung back into Ogemaw's favor with the fact that they had just scored on their previous two drives. It was tied up. They got the big turnover in their end, and they were going to start their next drive, with a opportunity to take the lead. And so the very first play after that turnover on downs for us, their quarterback, pitched it out to the running back, and Jace kind of played it well, where he played both of those offensive guys, and the ball ended up on the ground, and Jace was fortunate enough to pick it up and run it in. And so, that obviously swung momentum back into our favor and gave us a 35-28 lead going down the stretch.
Yeah. And then of course, and then after the defensive touchdown, and then Trace then got another touchdown ran for 46 yards to score, to make it 42-28. That would be the final. So Gladwin wins again, 1-0 to start the season. And how about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great test, and like I said, it's a great Ogemaw team, a very well coached team, experienced team, physical, and so they were everything that we thought they would be, and we were just really proud of the way that our guys were able to fight through some adversity and stay focused when there's that many new young faces in the starting lineup and circulating through out there on the game field. You just don't know how they're going to react when there's those big moments in the game. And we talked a lot about staying mentally tough and how there were going to be swings in the game that weren't in our favor, and we'd have some in our favor. And regardless of what happened, we needed to stay in it until the end. And that's what we did. And we were fortunate enough to make just enough plays to come out on top. And so, obviously starting 1-0 is better than 0-1. But, leading into this next week, we open league play, and there's going to be no shortage of teams that are excited to, try to give us their best shot too. So it doesn't get any easier from here, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get into previewing the next week's game, it is time to hand out your awards this week. Your offensive, defensive, and special teams players of the week. So who are they?
Okay, so offensively, it was tough. And you would think, how can it be tough? You had Trace Corlew, kind of go crazy in that game. But for our sophomore Colton Finnegar, he was right there in the running as well. He had 347 yards of offense with 3 touchdowns himself. But the guy that kind of stole the show was Trace Corlew. He ended up with 1 rushing, 1 passing, 3 receiving touchdowns, as well as 357 yards of offense there. So we've talked about this kind of in our preview episodes, that he was just a guy that had big playability, but was kind of overshadowed by some of the older guys that were talented from the last year's team. And this year he was really going to get his opportunity. And so, so far he's made the most of it. Obviously, teams are going to work to take him out of the game plan, and other guys are going to have to step up. And that's just kind of how, sports work. And so, but for this week, he's definitely the guy that deserves the offensive MVP. Defensively, we're going to go with Preston Willert. His stat line was 7 tackles and a really big and timely sack in the game. He's just a sophomore. And so even though he wasn't our leading tackler, kind of the selfless plays that he had in taking on blocks and really just doing his job to a T, to allow our defense to operate and other guys to have success, is huge. And so, still a great game at middle linebacker, his first game on the varsity team in a starting role. And so to step up in that kind of physical matchup is a really big deal, and we're really excited for his future going forward. So he was our defensive MVP that game. And then special teams, I'm going to go with the easy out here and take Trayton Siegert. He was 6 for 6 on extra points. But really what won this award for this week over for him is his ability to just flip the field on punts. And when you're in a game that's, as closely contested as this one was, where any one score could have flipped the game one way or another, he had some massive punts that just got us out of bad situations and allowed our defense a little bit of breathing room. And that's huge. And so I had mentioned before on the preview show that he was going to be a weapon, and he showed up, in week 1.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so yeah, of course, those 3 MVPs. So coach will award 3 MVPs every single week regardless if it's a win or a loss. So stay tuned for that. Well, on to week 2. Harrison is coming to Gladwin this week, and what's that going to be like? Go ahead and preview that one for us.
Yeah, and so like I mentioned a few minutes ago, anytime that you're getting into league play, every game is important. We always have the goal of competing for a league title, and this year's no different. And so they're going to be a good test. It's something that we haven't had an opportunity to go up against this year, and that's the full house T. They do a great job of doing what they do, and just kind of getting after it. And so we expect another physical game where our guys are going to have to make reads and be detail focused on what our game plan is to give us a opportunity to win. And so, anytime that you play against those full house T teams that are good at it, and Harrison is one of those, they've done it for years and years and years. If you're not doing your job, you're going to allow big plays. And so, we'll put together a game plan for our guys going into this week, and defensively, and hope that they can execute it. Offensively, same type of deal. Like they're familiar with what we do. I'm sure they'll have their kids well prepared. And so we would anticipate that it would be a good game to open our league schedule, and we're excited for it.
Yeah, should be a good one there. So preview this upcoming week of practice.
Yeah, so it's kind of a unique week with the holiday coming up here and playing on Thursday. I know a lot of schools are practicing on Sunday, and so for us, we're going to use today for an opportunity. It's completely voluntary for our guys to come in and get a light run if they want, and then we'll provide cold tubs for them to get in and try to rehab their bodies. We got a lot of sore guys that woke up on Saturday, and we talked about that with the preview of Ogemaw, just the level of physicality that game was going to be. And I think I might have even mentioned there was going to be a lot of guys waking up extremely sore on Saturday, and so just with texting them and kind of seeing what their needs were, a lot of them said that they would like to just kind of focus on taking care of their bodies, and that they were extremely sore. So that's the plan for today. On Mondays, we're going to treat it like a traditional Monday, and so we'll spend some time this week with our character development program. We do the Real Man program, and so we could detail that potentially in another episode, but we're big believers in creating future great elite community members and men out of our program, because eventually football will end for everybody. So we'll do some of the Real Man program and work on character development, spend a little bit of time working on film and talking about our game plan offensively and defensively, and then get a little lift in, go for a run, have more opportunities for cold tubs. And then, really on Tuesday and Wednesday is when the bulk of the work will happen as far as on the practice field. But then it'll be kind of that short week, and the fact that we don't really get like a walkthrough day, just with the way that we're scheduling that. Traditionally Thursdays would be kind of the walkthrough, and you finalize everything and then play on Friday. And so this week we really just won't have that last minute walkthrough, because our work days are going to be Tuesday, Wednesday still. So we feel good about that, though. We think, the few days off over this weekend and some rehab opportunities with cold tubs and light workouts and stuff like that to kind of work some of the soreness out will be good for them. And then they can stay focused on the game plan and taking a lot of mental reps on that will prepare us well. And we'll see how it goes on Thursday.
Yeah. What do you feel like you guys really need to do to go 2-0 on the season?
Yeah, I mean, we still have a lot of things that from the Ogemaw film that we need to clean up, and so that's the beauty of these early games every year, especially when you walk away with the win, is that there's going to be things that you need to clean up, and first game jitters and that sort of thing. And so really just getting an opportunity this week to work the kinks out of what we tried to execute against Ogemaw and keep getting better. If we do that, I think we'll give ourselves a great shot, combined with guys really understanding the game plan and buying into that and knowing it like the back of their hand. If we're able to do all of those things, I think that'll provide us an opportunity to be successful in our week 2 matchup.
All right. Well, Coach, thank you so much for always stopping by and talking with us. That's going to do it for another episode of the Flying G Huddle. Tune in next week as the Gladwin Flying G's will say goodbye to their beloved home for the entire month of September. We'll get into more of that in next one because of the 4 straight road games. So there you go. So we'll get into that more next week when we preview the upcoming game against Shepherd. We'll obviously recap this game against Harrison on next week's show. So tune in. And this has been the Flying G Huddle.